I've been with my wife for 6 years now. We've been married for 3. And all I'm trying to share is the journey and the process of figuring it out. That's all I'm trying to share. And she was the first guest on my podcast that I interviewed. And the whole conversation was, here's all the mistakes we made in our first 3 years of marriage. Like, this is what we got wrong.
Oh, wow. You went in?
That's what we talked about, because I wanted people to hear how much stuff we've worked through.
Yeah.
Because that's the fun of it. Because when you can have fun working through stuff and people are hearing that, they're like, oh, my relationship's not so different now.
Right.
Because if all I'm seeing is the selfies and the happiness and all that kind of stuff. So for me, that's where my expertise is. My expertise is, how do I share while I'm going through it and share with you just the experience I have. So like, I'm not giving advice to couples who have kids. Like, because I've not been through that. I don't know what that feels like. When I go through it, I'll figure it out and I'll share some. So I'm sharing pre-marriage, getting married, the early years of marriage, what I'm learning from that process.
Which also is a really hard part of the marriage.
I think so.
It is. Our first year was quite interesting, to say the least. I mean, it was just like, we waited till we were married to have sex. We hadn't lived together. My career was really kind of started taking off, and he went to grad school, and it was like finding this balance of like who we are in so many different aspects, but like knowing that divorce is not an option. So it's like, we have to focus and work on this.
Yeah.
And they tell you, oh, marriage is work, but nobody can explain it to you because every marriage is so different.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear that other people are explaining their first 3 years of marriage and the struggles that they'd been through. Yeah. Something we did do on our honeymoon actually was read the 5 love languages. Have you read that?
Love that book. I've made videos on that book.
Oh, you did?
I've made like 3 videos on that book, and I think Gary Chapman's a genius. Like,
what are your love languages?
I believe your love languages are based a lot about how your parents love you.
Oh, interesting.
So my love language.
Like, you want what your parents didn't give you, or you still want what they gave you?
Both.
Depending on how good or bad they're.
Correct.
Got it.
So mine was, and this is how I traced it back. I love my mom. She's amazing. And when my mom was raising me, she sometimes couldn't spend a lot of time with me because she was working too.
Okay.
But I knew that on my birthday, she would always get me the gift that I wanted.
Oh.
She would always get it, no matter what it was. And we didn't grow up with a lot, but she would save up, make sure that I had it, and she would find it and she'd get it for me. And it would just be one thing, but it would always be the one thing I most wanted. So like one year it was like Power Rangers or something like that. And I realized that I associated love with gifts.
Oh. So was that your number one love language?
That was my number one love language.
And is it giving and getting?
Yes. So I love giving people grand gestures, and I love receiving grand gestures. But my wife, her number one love language is quality time. Oh, because her family on their birthdays and stuff would just...
Time spent.
Yeah, they wouldn't go out to work that day. Her dad would stay home. They would plan an activity or whatever, something like that.
Right.
And so they'd spend time together. So when we met, I was like, where's my gift? Like, where is it? It's like, do you not love me? And I would be giving her these grand gestures and gifts on her birthday. And she'd be like, oh, I just want to spend time with you. And
okay, I want you to break mine down.
Go on.
I'm acts of service.
Yes.
What does it mean?
Do you like giving or receiving?
I like getting acts of service. Like, if you want to love me, acts of service.
Well, that's the hardest one.
Right?
That is your husband's amazing. That is the hardest one.
He is a talented man.
Yeah, that is amazing.
I mean, it's like, he vacuums, make the bed, do the thing that I asked you one time and it's done. I'm like,
wow, that is impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Acts of service is one of the hardest ones.
I'm hard to love.
No, you're not.
Just kidding, I'm just kidding.
No, so that's me projecting my bias of how scary I find that one for you. That's me going, oh my God, I'm so glad that I could never do that. I could never live up to that. But no, that's beautiful. And that's what I mean, that you are with a partner who understands that, loves that, is able to give that. And that's great.
Love languages are very important in relationships. Huge. And Justin's is time spent and physical touch.
Okay.
Those are his top. So I just know that, like, I know what he needs and he knows what I need. And I think that anybody who feels like they're not connecting with their partner should read that book.
100%. I love that book. I recommend it to everyone. And I think the biggest thing we should all notice is, until you read that book and until you figure out love languages, you are speaking different languages.
Right.
And so it's like literally speaking to your partner in a language they don't understand.
Right.
And so you could be doing everything. Like, for example, for you, Justin could be buying you like the best gifts in the world and taking you on fancy holidays and all this kind of stuff, but he's not doing acts of service. And you're going to be like, well, now what?
Doesn't he love me?
Yeah, exactly. And he does. Like, you may be with someone, anyone who's listening and watching this right now, you may have someone who loves you deeply. You've just never articulated what your love language is.
You have to speak up.
You have to share it. No one can read in between the lines. You can't expect that person to figure it out by looking at you. you need to tell them, this is how I feel most loved, right? This is what I need to feel loved. And I see so many couples that get scared about saying this or doing this, or it's like hard for your ego, because being able to have enough vulnerability and openness to say to your wife, I need you to tell me I've got this, right? Like words of affirmation, that I need words of affirmations. And, the ego goes, oh no, I don't really need that from my wife. But you have to share it. If you don't tell them that, how are they gonna know? You gotta put your ego aside and be really open and honest.
Everything you talk about on social media and through your videos is so emotional based. And there's just a lot of like that inner work, especially like with relationships. But what about the physical aspect of it? Like the intimacy and all of that. Do you ever touch on any of that?
Let me think. I've definitely talked about it from an abuse point of view.
Right.
But you're talking about from the other
like
side.
when you're married, sex is important.
Yeah, right.
And I think that for me, my understanding is like, you have to have the emotional first before the sex can stay consistent.
Correct.
And great.
It's so much easier to talk about that or go into that. And that's why I focus so much on my content on the other side.
Right.
And my content is so heavily focused on the compatibility, on the healing, on the deep work, because I'm like, if people get this right, they're gonna have amazing relationships, they're gonna have amazing physical, everything's gonna be great. But when you look at all these magazine covers and you'll always see like, the 7 things she wants in bed and the 3 things, and it's always those things. And that's what I love about what I've been able to do with video, is that we've shifted the conversation. The video's getting millions and millions of views, but we're talking about stuff that actually is gonna make a difference.
Right.
Whereas you telling someone like, these are the 3 things she wants in bed, like, that's not gonna change your relationship if you aren't compatible, if you don't connect, if you don't speak the right love languages, if you're not empathetic, if you're not vulnerable, then that 3 list of this and 7 list of that isn't gonna do anything.
It's void.
And that's where I'm trying to get to with people, because I don't want people to use sex as a substitute for that. And I don't want people to use sex as an excuse for that. And I don't want people to use sex as a cover-up for not having any of that, because I know, having been in tons of relationships where it was just physical, and that's all there was, that's the only time it felt good. It didn't feel good at any other time. I didn't go home with a beautiful feeling in my heart. And then when it's only about that, that's also when it can be easily replaced. Right. Because that's easily changeable.
Right.
And that's why I think so many people go through, and I talk about in my videos so much about cheating and loyalty, because when it is just physical, it becomes so much more easier to just disconnect and throw it away.
All those things happen.
Yeah.
And now heartbreak.
Yes.
What's your advice on heartbreak?
Oof.
I know you have a video up. It's like the 5 things people should do through heartbreak.
Yes,
and one of them is like, get rid of everything from the past and only focus on the present and the future.
Yeah.
That's hard for people.
I like getting rid of visual triggers. I think the challenge in a lot of our lives is that we're surrounded by the same sounds, the same sights, and the same people that we were in our past. And I see this with anything, and I'm sure you felt this. When you went deeper into your faith, did your circles change?
100%.
Right. When you went deeper into your faith, did what you look at change?
100%.
Right. So you look at
my heart changed.
Your heart changed,
because,
but internal and external.
Yes, because for me, when I transformed in my faith, it was a transformation of my heart.
Yes.
Not about what I was actually doing or not doing.
Correct. And that's what I feel for anyone. Anyone that I've witnessed and observed go through transformation in their life, their environments have changed. And so for me, a lot of us are making it harder for yourself. It's like saying, I want to start working out every day, but I don't own any trainers, right? It's like, that's not gonna work. It's like doing the opposite. Like, I want to go on a diet, but I'm gonna keep chocolate cake in my refrigerator, right? Like, it's that. So you're saying,
so you're enabling
I want to get over the past, but I'm gonna keep my ex's sweater right next to me, and I'm gonna keep all these text messages that I can keep reading through again.
Why do people go back and read text messages?
Because
from someone that broke their heart.
Because nostalgia and imagination is more powerful, right? The feeling of nostalgia, and this is in studies too, like the research behind nostalgia is you always think things were better in the past with something like that. So you read a message and you're like, oh, but they loved me so much. And now all you're doing is reality's here, and you've got your own version of reality playing here. So you're basically writing your own movie script up here when reality is telling you this. And nostalgia is that script.
It's that fantasy that's never gonna become.
It's that fantasy that isn't real. So it's you saying, I don't want to accept what is, and I'm trying to accept what if.
Those people who can't get over that hump, what do you tell them?
One of the biggest things, like,
do you really want to?
No. It's a good conversation. I think one of the biggest things I say to people is just like, let's kind of break their space that they're in. It's almost like that person needs a space change and they need to get out of that zone. And so for me, I'm always encouraging people to start doing new things. I think it's so powerful when you go and have a new experience, when you try something new, you join a new class, you've never done it before. Because guess what? It's about finding yourself again. So you're now learning new things about yourself. You're now falling in love with yourself.
It's about falling in love with yourself.
Correct. And I think that the biggest mistake we make in that time is everyone's telling you, oh, when's the rebound? Like, are you gonna date this guy? When are you gonna start dating again? Or this girl? When are you gonna be out there again? And it's almost like, well, no, maybe it's about I go inside this time and spend some time with myself. And I think new experiences are a beautiful way of doing that because you only learn new things about yourself when you do new things with yourself. Right?
Woo,
like
preach.
we never do new things with ourselves. You're always doing the same things with the same people. But imagine you start doing new things on your own and now you have new memories. And one of the things I've been talking about a lot with people is forming new memories. If you don't make new memories, the old ones will always hold you back. And that's why we're stuck in the old, because we're not making any new ones. So the old ones just keep pulling you back. So the best way to make new memories is A, set up an experience, do it with a friend that you love. And when you go out there, it's this technique that's often used for grounding in therapy and everything, but I use it for presence, and that's how we were trained in it as monks. When you go somewhere and you're like, I want to take a mental picture of this. How many times have you ever said that? Where you go somewhere, you're like, I want to have this in my mind and I want to keep it forever.
And the iPhone camera is not
and the camera is not going to do it. It's not going to keep it emotionally. And I think we're so bad at creating emotional memories that are new. So the best way to do it is called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
So when you're in a space, and let's say I want to do it of this, I look at 5 things that I could see. So 5 things that I can see right now. So I'm going to say you, obviously, important part of the memory.
Oh, you're important too. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm doing it with you.
Yeah, I'm going to say the rug.
Okay.
So I'm going for space.
Okay.
I'm going to look at the ceiling. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to say the couch. So there are 5 things that I can see. The second thing is 4 things that you can touch.
Okay.
So 4 things I can touch.
My silky dress, my really dry skin.
You're good at descriptions. Silky dress, dry skin, this is good.
The rough.
Textured,
the
rough.
Textured, yes. And my glass.
Yeah.
Perfect. Glass water.
4 things. Amazing. 3 things that you can hear.
I can hear the light.
Yes.
I can hear myself swallow and I can hear your voice.
Perfect. And then 2 things that you can smell.
I can smell my garlic breath. And I'm having a hard time smelling basically anything because I'm 7 months pregnant.
Sure,
but
so nothing.
You can hear how clogged I am.
Yeah, me too.
But maybe my perfume.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And then one
it's
thing.
all about me.
Yeah, no, that's good. And then one thing you can taste.
Garlic.
Great. So if you did that in an experience that you wanted to hold on to forever, all you have to do to make a mental picture, take a mental picture of everything is do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste.
I really like that.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
5,
And
4, 3, 2, 1.
and this is what I mean by when you're going through a breakup, the biggest mistake you make is the old memories hold you back because you don't know how to make new memories. And so my advice to everyone is go and make new memories. If you want even more videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe and click on the boxes over here. I'm also excited to let you know that you can now get my book, Think Like a Monk, from thinklikeamonkbook.com. Check below in the description to make sure you order today.